A little shaggy. Hello, Lifers. It's Jason Love with Jason Loves Life. I think this is just going to be... I should make this right here, Pumpkin's wall art, part of our background for our Q&A. I don't think Leah would like it because Frumpkin's usually up. She likes to... it's hard to record with Frumpkin in the room. So anyways, Libby sent a message, and I wish I could read it. Unfortunately, I can't use the phone and record at the same time. And Libby said that she fired her ABA therapist, and I assume the whole organization. And I wanted to do a video on that specifically because I know that I have a lot to say. I'd like to, when we do our Sunday Q&A, we'll hear what Leah has to say. I just would rather hear what Leah has to say during that video and let me rant about it on this video. So, Libby, first of all, I do think you made the right decision. That's a thing. Unfortunately, there's all these different elements. There's the parents, there's the child, there's the organization, there's the therapist, and there's the location where they do it. I think someone was saying they're doing it not at the house. So I know, Libby, you're doing it at your house, or we're doing it at your house. And first thing I would say is you mentioned your ABA therapist not seeming to know what she was doing. And I think that is a big concern. For us, we were very fortunate enough that I'm trying to remember how many ABA therapists we started with. I want to say at least 2. I think there's 3. And they were all experienced. Like, they all came in having not necessarily a full year, but at least worked with autistic kids and really understand the program, especially the one who was in yesterday's video where we went to the park. She's had a lot of experience with as an ABA therapist, so it makes a huge difference. She knows the program. She can explain stuff. Yes, that's a big concern that, these organizations, again, you have the right to fire them, the organization or the individual. And also this, and I don't know if they did this for you, but our WEAP is what it is, Wisconsin Early Autism Project. They said if there was any issues with the specific therapist, talk to them. They're business. I mean, I don't know I don't think they're a nonprofit. I don't know, but either way, they're an organization that if I say, hey, this person doesn't seem to know what they're doing, they're going to try to accommodate me, because if, like, you fired them, now they don't make any money. So, which, is a good thing, because that means they have to provide the service. So again, if we were, like, we've gotten some new technicians instead of therapists now. And I think only reason why they're doing so well is because all the other people are veterans, I guess. I don't know if that's a good term. They're experienced, I guess, is a better term. And even when they started and they were new, I don't think she's the behavior therapist. There's a hierarchy, and we've talked about this before. But the person who's like their manager, I guess, would come and literally work with them for several days, if not longer, and kind of like show them the ropes. And so the one new person that we have now, we had another new person who quit, and that's another kind of a hard thing about ABA is if they do get somebody new who's inexperienced, decide they don't like it, they're going to quit. And I actually really liked her. I kind of wish I could talk to her and get her to come back and just say, partially because she was one of the therapists that was always wanting to go outside, and I like having that balance of, I definitely think the table time and the transition is important, but it was just nice to be like, okay, especially if she came in the afternoon, because he'd be exhausted, so it's a good time to get him outside, and we could do programs. She was a little bit more willing to not say very strict on the ABA, although, like, the other ones, again, are flexible, but a little bit more like, oh, this is what I'm supposed to be doing. So again, it's great to have a balance of that, figure out who's more comfortable going to the park. And it's a bit annoying, but it's kind of part of the deal, I guess. We've accepted, as far as finding a balance. And again, if we would have had all new people, I don't think we would be in this situation, because it would be frustrating. And you also mentioned the iPad as a reinforcer, and it's really funny because our therapists or our technicians are very much against using it. And I think it's like a hierarchy. So the people at the top are telling them. So it's somebody up top who Katie's are. I don't know. I know there's a behavior. There's some type of therapist, and then there's somebody else, and then again a hierarchy. But they're very much against using the iPad as a reinforcer because then it's too much of a reinforcer. So we would do everything from like things that he wants to eat. We've done those as reinforcers. Specifically, I was kind of pushing blueberries because he loves blueberries. So he got a blueberry, and they've changed. The closest they've come to iPad as a reinforcer is they all have phones that they use as their timer, and they would use the Snapchat. So like Frumpkin would never actually touch the phone. She would turn on the Snapchat, and then he would just make funny faces. They just called it funny faces. So he'd make funny faces to the camera. And I don't think he's really into that anymore. I think he just got sick of it. So yeah, that is a little bit, those two things are red flags totally. And so I'm glad that you brought them up. Other one was watching the therapist. And it's funny because, again, I actually felt when I first started that I had to stay in the room. It was awkward. I never got the impression they didn't want me to be there, but I could see where somebody new wasn't used to it and was nervous. I could definitely see them being nervous about it, but it's your house, it's your kids. Right now, I get a little weirded out because they're doing therapy in Frumpkin's room, and sometimes they have to shut the door because he doesn't want to do something. He's been a little bit more rebellious lately, partially our own fault for letting him play iPad so much, or letting him play, I was letting him play the Wii, and I had to take the Wii away because he would obsess over it and wouldn't do anything but cry about wanting to play the Wii. And so I've been doing it in the back room to kind of help with that. So I don't think it's really working, but it is a little bit nicer to have them back there. And again, most of the time the door is open, but once in a while we close the door. It's the same as if you send your child to school. You're not really watching, but we can hear everything that's going on. And if we want to check, we just open the door. And I've done that just because I knew he was being upset. I just figured I'll put my head in and see if there's any way I could help. So yeah, those would be, I guess, just to recap, the big red flags would be watching, which again, if they didn't ask you to leave, not that big of a deal, but as a parent, I feel like you should have that right and ask. And if to ask to watch, or we have kites and we can't technically watch because they said it's a distractor, but we can kind of like glance around, like they're trying to. If they give you an answer like that, then they're at least trying, and they're just saying this is the issue with showing you, and you can be more forceful on that if you want, and totally understand. But we've worked with them long enough that it's a little bit different. Second, inexperience and not able to answer your questions. Yep, that's a big red flag. 3, using the iPad, I think, is not a great indicator. And then 4, you're talking about her crying and wanting your child crying and wanting, basically pushing that out the door. And I think that that's interesting too, because Frumpkin, they started off playing a lot and not doing any table time. And then when they did table time, they introduced it, after a week or two. It was very easy for that reason because they didn't want to make the child upset, Frumpkin upset. And no, I mean, not red flags meaning you should fire them if those are there, but just those are things to at least consider. And that's how I feel about ABA. Like, as I learn more about it, I think, okay, this is a complaint that people have about it. Let me watch for it and see, one being like negative reinforcements, which I don't think, I would assume no ABA therapist or ABA program does that anymore, but it's one that I would definitely, negative reinforcement being punishments, basically. So I just wanted to cover those things and kind of compare it to our situation, and think maybe people would find that helpful. Again, if you, I know you said that you're thinking about sending your child to school, and then maybe trying ABA again. I definitely feel ABA helps Frumpkin, and we like it. Whether we'll keep it forever, not sure. It kind of depends a little bit on school and other things, and situations change. But I recommend it to other people. I also recommend seeing what your options are as far as providers of ABA. Maybe your school has some kind of program with ABA, or even just get them into something. So speech therapy was super helpful for Frumpkin. I assume occupational therapy would be helpful. We just like ABA just because it becomes kind of an all-around package, and it's been extremely helpful so far. And even though, like I said, Frubkin right now, uh, day by day, some days are great, and some days he even doesn't want to be there. So, but we can all relate to that. If you've gone to public school or probably even private school, I assume private school as well. Most people who've gone to school can relate. So, I hope you find it helpful. If you guys have any story about ABA, feel free to share it in the comments. Would love to read it. Share your experience, and give the video a thumbs up so other people can learn about it. And I will see you tomorrow.